Hello everyone, today we'll be taking a look at a phishing analysis room from TryHackMe. So let's get started. I have already deployed the machine which is attached to this room. So let's take a look at the learning objectives, and I'm gonna go through them really quick. I just don't want to waste time. We're going to learn the email headers, what are the email headers, and how you can analyze suspicious email and the attachments with the help of some HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and of course some techniques. So we have some task files here which are attached. Let's take a look at the background information. So we are a SOC analyst for a company that is named Flying Security, and we have received a report from our senior executive which was named Paul Feathers, and he says that he recently received an email from ParrotPost, and ParrotPost here is a email company email tool, like you have roundcube in cPanel if you have ever used it. So you can say the same. ParrotPost is just like the roundcube here. So it's a company email tool and this email is asking him to log into his account to resolve an issue with his account information. So let's download the task files, and once we have that, you can see we have to investigate the email and determine whether it is a legitimate or a phishing email. And the file that we just downloaded is an EML file. So if you're not sure what is an EML file, we can search it up really good. So let's say, what is an EML file? And we can see here it says an EML file is an email message saved by an email application. So like in Gmail, you can actually save the email that you have received in a specific file, and that file will contain all of the email headers and couple information. So we can quickly actually take a look at this file. I'm going to open it by the notepad, and we can see a couple of information here. Let's just full screen. Here we have the date, the received message ID, subject is urgent ParrotPost account update required, and this is actually the same that you can see here. It says ParrotPost, sorry, yeah, urgent ParrotPost account update required. And we have the from header, which actually signifies the email that you have received is from which party. So this is from ParrotPost webmail, and the email address is no reply at postparrot.ts. And this actually looks like a legitimate address of the Parrot company. But mindful, if you have actually ever used Python programming languages to send email addresses, you know that this from header can easily be spoofed. Like you can easily fake it. So actually, I once created an Python application, Python script, with which I used to send emails to anyone on the internet. And it was actually using the Google's SMTP server, and we had the power to control the from header. So I could actually control the name and also this email here. So it could be anything. So whenever you're investigating, don't go with this from header, because it can easily be spoofed. Next one, we have return path. So return path is the same. So reply to is an interesting one here. It says ParrotPost to webmail, and the email address is here no reply at postparrot.tsm. Note that this is a 0, not O, like here. So we can clearly say that this is a spoofed email address. I mean, this is an evil server, which is of course the attacker's server, to actually phish you into the sending emails to him. Next, we have of course, you know, this is the email address to whom the email has been sent. And here comes the custom header, which has the TryHackMe flag here. And you can there's one more thing that you can see, there's no X like here in all of the headers that are above this. Like none of them has X. So what does X mean? X means that this is a custom header. So in the RFC, which defines the email, like how the email should be formatted, the rules and regulations of, or the protocol of email, it says that if an header contains X, it means this header is custom and it was not actually initiated or set up by the RFC community, or the, what we call it, Internet Engineering Task Force. Yeah, guys who made or rule the internet, you can say. If a company wants to implement a custom header, they of course have to use this X. Next up, we have content type. It says multi-part mixed. We have X priority. We have importance high, authentication results. We can ignore these things. And we are gonna get to see what is received in just a second, in a minute or two. Next, we have the email body. It says dear P feathers. We have detected unusual activity in our account. This is the same thing that you can see right here. Next up, we have content type to be text/HTML. So this is the HTML web page. You can see here it says doc type HTML parrot post account update required. So you can see right here parrot post account update required. This is that body of the mail. We have another content type text/HTML and its name is ParrotPost action required.htm. The HTML means it is HTML file, which is of course an attachment. Here you can see right here it says content disposition is attachment and the file name is this. So this file is actually attached on this email, and we can also see the content transfer encoding is base64, which means this file is actually base64 encoded. And you can see this is the you can say base64 data of the HTML file that is being attached to this email. I have some facts to tell you about this content disposition. You can see here it says attachment, which means it is an attachment, and it has one more value, which is I guess inline, and which means if I'm not sure, but if it is inline, that means the file will be directly opened in your browser instead of being downloaded. I'm not sure, but I have that right. So yeah, that we have that email. Let's open the task 3, and here we have some information about the email headers that we have just discussed. One more interesting thing here is you can actually open that file contents in a website for a better view. So this is the website mha.azurewebsites.net. It is attached to the room itself, and here you get a lot of information, which is of course the same information but in a better way. So we have the summary here. So you can see it is nicely formatted so that you can it's very easy on our eyes. With the received headers, so this is an interesting one that we'll see in a moment. Other headers are what we just discussed. The custom header is this. All of those headers are right here. Now here we have the identifying the source that we were just talking about. So as I told you that the from header can easily be spoofed, right? So it is also said here that it can be a little challenging to determine that the originating sender is a valid or not. Like, is it a valid email or a phishing email? So the received headers actually added by the email servers to show the path the email actually took to come across your email. In those headers, you can actually see the IP address here. So you can this is the IP address of the mail server that was used to send this email. We can see here it says the sender's IP address is typically listed in the received header. Note that it says in the first received header, because of course when someone sends a message or email message, it has to come across multiple servers, right? So of course the first one will be the server that was used to send the email. There could be many, but here in this case we only have two. And once we have that IP address that we just identified, which is this 109, we can use an IP lookup tool to see the country of the originating IP, the source IP, I mean. So if we do IP lookup, we may be able to identify that email was sent from which country. So here it says Latvia. I hope I pronounced that right. So it says, according to IP address, what country is the sending email server associated with? This is Latvia, of course. It says, if Paul replies to this email, which email address will his reply be sent to? And we saw that previously in a text editor, which is that information will be in the X dash reply to. Yeah, it is. Sorry, not X, only reply to. And this is that email, which is the email of the attacker because it's 0 instead of O. Next, what is the value of the custom header in the email? That we also had a look at. What's this? Of course, okay. Now, we're going to take a look at the attachment that we have received. So let's get going. So this is the base64 encoded content that we have right here. Whoops. I'm just going to copy it. And I'm going to go to the CyberChef. Just do base64 decoded. Click on the magic band, says from base64, and we have the contents here. Perfect. Let's copy this, and I'm going to paste this into Sublime Text Editor for a better view. So we have the HTML head script tags. Inside the script, we have a variable named base64, and as the name suggests, this is actually base64 encoded data. And then we have a document.write unescape atob base64. So atob is a function that is actually used to decode the base64 content. So this stuff right here is being decoded because this is called inside this atob function. So once this base64 stuff is decoded, then unescape function is used here. Unescape is used to escape, or you can say decode the HTML entities, the HTML characters. Those are some special characters. So I'm going to do that manually right now. I'm going to copy this base64 content and then decode it, again with the help of CyberChef. We have the stuff here. Let's new file, paste it in here, and we can see this is really ugly to look at, right? So I'm going to copy this once again, and let's use another website that's called HTML Beautifier. So just like you have JSON Beautifier, which actually beautifies your JSON code, or you can say formats it, we can also use HTML Beautifier for the same purpose. Now the beauty of this thing is you can also see the rendered version of this page, and we can see here that in the email input field, the email is autofilled here, which is of course Paul Feathers flying security.htm, I'm sorry, and which actually makes this page look a little authentic, right? So I'm going to say beautify HTML. Now we have the formatted code. Let's replace it here. And we have the perfect code here. It says ParrotPost login. We have a couple of CSS to format the web page. We are going to skip that. Then we have some weird characters here. These are the HTML entities which you can actually decode. So for example, if I copy this, go back to CyberChef, paste it here, clear the recipe field, and then HTML entity. Yeah. So you can see in the description it says converts HTML entities back to characters. Example, this gets converted into int, right? So from HTML entity, you can see here it says ParrotPost secure webmail login. So this is the same stuff here. I guess this is nothing important, right? So I'm going to skip over that, but we have something interesting here. Let's copy this, paste it in here. And from base64, we actually get a flag here. Now, let's take a look at the JavaScript code that we have right here. If you're not familiar with the JavaScript, in 2023, you have ChatGPT. So I'm gonna be a little dirty here, and instead of actually manually telling you what this code does or manually reviewing this code, I'm gonna use ChatGPT for this purpose. It makes our life a lot easier. So I have this code wrapped in these backticks, and then I'm gonna say explain this JavaScript code. Sorry for my typing. And shall give you a very nice explanation. And we can see here it clearly says that JavaScript code appears to be an example of malicious code designed to capture the login credentials from a login form and send them to a malicious server, which is of course what is happening in the JavaScript code. So we have the code breakdown in step by step. It says the code starts by getting reference to DOM elements, that is the login form and the login button, using the get element by ID method. So that is this. If you're familiar with JavaScript, you know that we are getting the email element by its ID. We are getting the value inside the email input box saved in our email variable. So that says that. And you can also see here, it says get the username and password input values and set them to variables. Next up, it says an event listener is added to the form to capture the submit event, which is right here. You can see form add event listener submit. So whenever submit button is pressed, this code inside this is triggered. So this whole code is getting triggered only when the submit button is pressed. And inside the code, we can see basically the email address and the password are getting URL encoded. And once they are URL encoded, they are being sent over to a URL here that you can see is evil parrot 8080 port over PHP file with the get parameters of email and password. And of course, email parameter contains our encoded email, password parameters contains our encoded password. And this request is being sent with the help of XML HTTP request that you can see right here. It makes a GET request to this URL, which is this, and it sends it. Once it is sent, your account is compromised. And this is actually what the ChatGPT explains as well. So event.prevent default is preventing the default form from submitting normally, which allows the malicious code to intervene before the data is sent. So these are all the steps that it just explained to us. So what encoding scheme is used to obfuscate the web page contents? Well, base64 encoding was used. What is the built-in JavaScript function used to decode the web page before writing it to the page? Well, it was ATOB function, which is used to decode the base64. After the initial base64 decoding, what is the value of the leftover base64 encoded comment? Well, we have that right here. Next up, says HTML entity decoding. Well, this is what we already did here. So these are the HTML entities that they are trying to now decode. You can easily decode it using CyberChef that we just discussed earlier, and we also beautified our code, like we formatted it in a very nice way. So it says after decoding the HTML entity characters, what is the text inside the h1 tag? So I guess we decoded that, right? So yep, there we have it. It says ParrotPost secure webmail login. Now they are coming on to the CSS obfuscation. We have all that done already. As we can see here, we actually use the HTML beautifier to beautify the whole code instead of doing it segment in segments. So what is the reverse of CSS minify? It is called CSS beautify. And yeah, with the CSS beautify, you beautify the code like this, like we just did. But if you want it in this manner, you have to use CSS minify. Now, next up, we have the JavaScript obfuscation, which we have already done once again. So what is the URL that retrieves the login request when login form is submitted? Well, when the login form is submitted, our email and password are sent over to our evil server, which is this. What is the JavaScript property that can redirect the browser to a new URL? Well, I have that in mind, which is window.location.href. And we can see it right here. So it says redirect to the real post Parrot website after sending, so the victim does not get suspicious. But this code is actually commented out. And you can see here it says window.location.href equals to the real company website address. So This is used in JavaScript to redirect the user to another URL or web page. Next up, we have the practical version here. So I'm going to copy this, and we are going to open the HTML file. I'm going to launch the split view here. And let us launch our HTML file. And I guess this is the file that was attached, right? So yeah, parrot post action required. And yeah, this is the file. Oops, I accidentally clicked on it. Yeah, so we are actually opening the attachment here, the HTML file that was attached to the email. And we are at this web page. This is the email, and let's try putting in a password. I'll say secure password. I'm gonna click on, well, before I click on login, I want to see how the request is made. Let's just do the full screen. The network tab here, click on the login, and as you can see here, it says, sorry, there was an error processing your request. Please try again later. But if you see the network tab here, you can see the evilparrot.thm, our request was sent to this address with, of course, our email and password attached in the URL as a get parameter. So in the response of this request, we actually get a flag, and it says status success, credentials have been stolen and appended to evilparrot.thm credits.txt. Okay, so these credentials are actually saved to credits.txt file. Now it says what is the flag you receive after sending your credentials. Capture your credits. What is the path on the web server hosting the log of capture credentials? Well, this is slash credits.txt. Based on the log, what is the Chris Smith's password? As you can see here, it says credits.txt is a file on their server, right? So we may be able to access it. So I'm going to copy this URL. Oops. Go to another tab, paste it in here, and we should be able to see the credentials of other users. And there we have it. So all of these users, oh my god, are compromised. Sad users. And we have all these passwords here, and we also have the entry that we made. And the password is secure password that I entered. And the questions actually asks us what is the Chris Smith's password. So where it is, Chris Smith. There we are. It is fly like a bird. Paste here, submit, and we have our room done. So like when we made the request, we saw that we received an error here, right? So this is nothing wrong happened with the server. This was actually intended so that the user which is actually filling in this form will think that, oh, there's an error with the server. Oh, okay, nothing wrong happened, right? Like they're not suspicious of their account getting compromised, of course. So another way would have been to, like, when they press login, they could be redirected to their official web page. But that would have been suspicious, because once you click on login, you should be logged into your webmail instead of going back to your website address. So that is why they chose to actually give you an error message, so that you may think there's a server-side issue instead of any error from your side, or you're getting hacked or something like that, So this logic is also implemented in the JavaScript that is right here. So I hope you learned something new in this row, and I'll see you in the next one.